Go 400. Number 14, Office Depot Mobile One Chevrolet. It's his 40th career NASCAR Sprint Cup Series win. That ties him with Mark Martin for 16th all-time. It also gives him a win in 13 straight NASCAR Sprint Cup Series seasons. So congratulations on that, and talk about getting off to a great start in the chase.
Oh man, you couldn't pick a better weekend to get that first win of the year than here at Chicago. Obviously, we felt like there were 3 or 4 opportunities earlier in the year that we let some get away from us, but we've struggled. We've had a miserable year, but the last 3 weeks have really started coming into it. We had a really good run at Atlanta, a good solid run last week at Richmond, and then to come out this weekend. I didn't honestly know going into the race. I don't think Darian and I either one thought that we had as good a car as we thought we needed to win today, but it didn't take long in the race to figure out that we were pretty solid. It was just getting the track position. I mean, it was really hard at the beginning of the race to make up any ground, and then we had one restart there where we caught a bunch of guys messing around with each other, and we were able to just pick them off 2 at a time. A couple times we were 3 wide and through the middle, and in positions that we didn't want to be in and that we typically wouldn't put ourselves in. But the way guys were racing today, you had to take chances. You had to put yourself in bad spots. Everybody was putting each other in bad spots during the day, and you just had to. Some guys in particular, you just had to get through and get away from them, and it seemed like once we got through that batch of cars, we were able to keep going forward, and I think we went from 18th to 7th or 6th or something in 2 stints there. So once we got up toward the front, we had a car that was good enough at that point to pick off a couple more cars on the restarts, and once we got in the top 4 there, I think it was once we got to that point, it was, as long as we didn't shoot ourselves in the foot, we were in position to at least have a nice solid top 5 finish. We knew we had speed. We just depended on what line that you ended up restarting on, whether it was inside or outside, and it seemed like we were better on the outside row, but at the end you hate to have to play the fuel mileage game, but that's just the way the caution came out, and we came in and got fuel, and Darian told me we had to save a lap's worth of fuel, so we had a whole run to do it, but we kept a lot of pressure on Matt, and finally got by him, and then once we got out to a second half 2-second lead, then we could start backing off to their pace and start saving fuel, and I felt like I'd saved enough to get us to the end, but we came off of turn 2 after we got the checkered, and the fuel pressure was down to 2 pounds, and it stayed there till just shortly after we picked up the checkered flag at the flag stand, and we didn't do any wild burnout or anything like that, and ran out before we ever got on pit road. So we were closer than I wanted to be, but we didn't have anything to lose. I mean, where we're at in the chase right now, I mean, we had to press, and I was glad I saved as much as I did, but I had a good enough car to get us there, and Darian and his calls and the car that they gave me gave us the opportunity to get to the lead where we were able to do that.
Okay, Mike, do you have a question? Go ahead.
MikeHenryspeed.com. Tony, do you recall about how many laps were left when you started saving fuel, and then was there a point with 3, 4, 5 to go when you knew you could just go flat out from there?
I don't know what lap we took the lead, but it was probably roughly 4 or 5 laps after we got the lead. It took to build that 2-second lead, and then once we got out there, then that's when we started really conserving and trying to take care of it to the end. And all we were doing was just trying to match their pace. I mean, Darian was giving me intervals every lap, and I didn't care what my lap time was. I was just more worried about what the interval was, because we knew, they had to kind of sell me that Truex was going to have to pit, and once they got me sold on that, then it was, we just kept worrying about our pace with Jimmy and Matt at that point.
Let's go Joe and then down to Jenna. Go ahead, Joe.
Joe Menzer, NASCAR.com. Tony, even on Thursday, you said you thought you guys were really underdogs and kind of named a bunch of other people. I mean, how do you feel now? Does this put you squarely? Does that change your mindset on that?
I'm not sure one weekend can do that, but I feel better about it. Obviously, we've had 3 good weekends in a row. Today doesn't change my mind, but the last 3 weeks definitely make me feel better about it. I mean, we still got 9 hard weeks to go, and we got some tracks that have been a struggle this year. So, we still got a long way to go, but this gets us off to the right start.
Go ahead, Jenna.
Jennifer, AP. At any time did you have flashbacks to last year in New Hampshire when you were trying to stretch the fuel there and worry that it could all blow up the wrong way?
No, I didn't. I mean, I was just worried about our interval, honestly. I mean, it's we've lost a lot more fuel mileage deals than we've ever won. I mean, so you really don't have time to think about what happened a year ago. I mean, I'm listening to him and worrying more about the intervals that I got.
Let's go back here to Jay and then to Nate. Or does that gentleman have a question? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Dave Markdown, WJOL, Tony. Third win at Chicagoland, 40 years old, 40th win. It looks like you're going to have a good year the rest of the year. Do the numbers mean anything to you? Do you play the numbers game at all?
I hope it doesn't mean I have to wait till I'm 41 to get another win. Because that's going to suck, having to wait to get one a year. But, I'm proud of that. I mean, and after hearing what Kerry said, I mean, to be tied with Mark Martin, that's a huge honor in this sport. So, Mark's one of the guys that's been one of my mentors and somebody that's on my top 5 on my hero list. And I'm probably most proud of that fact after winning today than anything. It's he's somebody I've got a lot of respect for and a lot of admiration for, and wish I could be more like him. But that's pretty cool to be sitting here and be tied with him in the all-time record book. It's pretty neat.
Go to Jay and then across to Nate. Go ahead, Jay.
Jay Howard, Yahoo Sports. Tony, you just said that where we're at in the chase right now, we had to press. At 12 points, it doesn't seem, first race doesn't really seem from this perspective that you're in a press situation at that point. Can you kind of explain that a little bit more?
Well, we were tied for 9th in the points or whatever, so we had nowhere to go but up. So, what are we going to lose if we take a gamble and it doesn't work? We really weren't taking a gamble, but I mean, I was more worried about getting the win than I was worrying about what was going to happen if we didn't win the race. So, we had nowhere to go but up, so we could put that pressure on those guys. And it's still 10 weeks, but I mean, we needed every point we could get today, because we may not, we may have an off week in the next 9 weeks, so we're going to need everything we can get right now.
So is it kind of situation where you're just kind of thinking about it, all win or nothing there at that point?
It wasn't win or nothing, but I mean, we ran hard enough to get to the lead, and if we ran too hard getting to the lead and ran out, I mean, there was a chance that they were going to run out too. But we weren't going to be any more conservative than those guys were. I mean, we were going to push them to make the decision to have to save fuel.
Go ahead, Nate.
Nate Ryan, USA Today. I guess for both Tony and Darian. Tony, you said Thursday that it was going to take a revelation to kind of get through these last 10 weeks and become a title contender. Did that happen this weekend, or did it happen today? Because despite having won, it seems like you guys are still pretty subdued about the impact of the victory.
One day doesn't change the whole season. So, I mean, like I said, we still got, same thing I said a minute ago, we got 9 races that we got to go through still, and we got to, I mean, today's an awesome day. I'm very proud of what Darian did. I'm proud of our guys, but, we got 9 more hard weeks, so, this is 1 of 10. So there's a lot that can happen and a lot that has to happen. So, unless you guys know what the future is, I can't really answer that accurately.
Darian, to comment on that, Darren?
Yeah, you say we're subdued, but if you hadn't realized, that's kind of the way we are every week. We come in every week trying to be the fastest race car and doing everything we do to get the best finish we can get. And obviously today it all worked out in our favor, and we're going to try to do the same thing next week. We don't get a chance to celebrate too much. We got to be at the shop tomorrow morning getting ready for New Hampshire. So we got a lot of hard work ahead of us, 9 more weeks to keep doing the same thing we're doing. You don't want to have too big a high and too big a low.
Dustin, do you have a question? Go ahead.
Dustin, along landmark newspapers for either one of you. I know Tony said you had to press today. Now second in points, 7 points behind. Obviously, still a long way to go. But how do you maintain that, or does that change, or how do you convince yourself to continue to press based on how well it worked today?
if you look at it just with the competitors we're racing against, those other 11 guys, you have to press every week. If you're not going to compete with those guys because one of those 11 is going to be pressing a little harder than you are. You hope they press their luck a little bit too much, but you just got to be on top of your game and get every position you can get and every point you can get because it's going to matter when it's all over. No, not at all.
Jim Utter right over here to your left.
Jim Utter, Charlotte Observer, for Tony and for Darian. And this was kind of a surprise last year in the Chase opener that so many people took chances. Were you surprised, Tony, that so many of your fellow Chase contenders gambled on the gas deal and several of them came up short? And Darian, were you surprised that several other teams did the same thing?
It really wasn't a gamble, though. It's just the way the race laid out and the way the cautions fell, so that's the lap we had to pit on. The only other thing you can do is be the conservative guy and come in and pit because you don't want to try to save any fuel, but you knew you were going to be a lap down then. So it's not really a gamble. It's just the call that had to be made considering the laps that were run.
It's hard for me on my side, knowing I saw more what Matt and Jimmy were doing. I didn't really know what the scenario was with everybody else as far as whether they could make it or not. I mean, I was just all I could analyze were the guys that we were around at the time.
Go ahead.
Tony Stangenota, WJOL. It seems like this team took off after the announcement you were going to add a third team. Was that a little bit of a hampering until that announcement was made, and after that a little weight off your shoulder and let you able to focus more on driving the car and less of the owner aspect?
No, definitely not. I mean, it doesn't affect the decisions that are made day in and day out to make the 14 car and the 39 car competitive. So, it's ironic that it happened there, I guess, but it didn't have any bearing on how we run the race team.
Joe, do you have another question?
Thanks. Tony, when you got kind of ticked off there and, said there were a bunch of idiots around driving around you, what specifically was, making you angry there? And is that sort of a byproduct of the chase that everybody was kind of scrambling a little earlier maybe than they would normally?
Nah, because it wasn't even chase guys. It's guys that didn't make the chase. But just wasn't a lot of give and take there. I mean, there were a lot of times when it was obvious that guys were quicker than others early in the race, and instead of using the etiquette that we've had forever, it's I don't think you're going to see that etiquette anymore. I think it's just dying off. I think guys don't care whether they make anybody mad on the racetrack or not. They're going to do what they want to do, and they're only solely worried about themselves. So we're going to start adopting that attitude. I mean, I'm tired of being a guy that gives a guy a break and then the guy doesn't do it in return, or the guy puts you in a bad situation. And we were put in multiple bad situations by guys that I got a lot of respect for and that are friends of mine. So I'm just going to adapt to their style. I mean, I'm not going to fight 42 guys to try to convince them to do the right thing. They don't want to do the right thing, so we're just going to do it their way. It's a lot easier just to not care about anybody but ourselves, so that's what we'll do.
Tony Stangenota again, following up on that one. Do you feel these younger guys are a little bit more fearless? They aren't earning the veteran drivers' respect. They're just coming out here and thinking it's all for them, some of these young guys?
I don't know. I think in their minds they respect them, but I don't know that. When you had Dale Earnhardt around and stuff, you learned if you weren't doing the right thing, and Dale Jarrett and Rusty Wallace, they would teach you if you were doing something wrong at the